All right, so here it is, the video you all can't wait to see. My opinion on the 4 countries I've visited, and I'm going to rank them from my favorite to least favorite, and some travel tips in between. Here we go. All right, so just before I begin this video, I'm just going to let you know at the end of it, there are probably going to be some outtakes of some things that happened in Paris. We had an interesting time there. All right, with that out of the way, what I want to talk about first is travel. So a lot of people say, hey, you know what? It's easier to go to like an international hub and fly out of there with a direct flight. This couldn't be any further from the truth. I coincidentally had a global entry interview scheduled at Logan International out of Boston. So I decided to fly out of there. The problem was that my local airport only charges like $12 a day to park. When I came back and I had to pay my parking garage fee at Logan International, they whacked me for almost $30 a day. So I was surprised with a $248 payment. That was probably enough to cover a flight to Boston, and I would have eliminated all of the driving in between, which for me was 6 hours round trip. All right, so one thing I want to talk about is Aer Lingus. That's who I flew to go to Ireland. I'm very particular on the planes that I fly, and they were showcasing a Airbus A330. All right, that's a huge plane, so I was expecting to have tons of legroom. Let me tell you something. They cram you in there like sardines. I would not fly with Aer Lingus again. I had my knee pressing into a metal belt buckle for about 6 hours, and I was in the middle seat, which was fine. I didn't really care about that. But for a big plane like that, you have to realize that not all deals are as good as they seem. This was truly a budget airline. Now, contrary to that, on the way back, I flew on Play Airline, which is previously owned by founders of WOW, and they rebranded themselves as WAB, We Are Back, and they are known as Play or flyplay.com. Now, as I flew out of Charles de Gaulle in Paris, I had to connect in Iceland because that's their main hub. As I connected from Iceland to Boston, I flew on 2 Airbus A321s. Extremely spacious, comfortable planes. The only thing it was lacking was a charger to plug my phone in. I would absolutely recommend this airlines. I don't know if they're going to come out with a credit card anytime soon or if they already have one. If they do, I would absolutely jump on that if you're one of those credit card people who looks for deals. Right now, from New York to Denmark, they're doing like $360 trips. It's insane. I can't fly from New York to like Florida for that price. So that's my travel advice as far as planning, your airlines. The other thing, there's a couple hacks you can do on Hopper. Hopper will actually show you flights for Play Airlines, but here's the catch to it. If you go on flyplay.com and you punch in the dates you're looking for, you'll probably find, some sort of European vacation that fits your needs. If you put those dates in the Hopper, you're going to see most likely the dates are going to be blacked out. It's going to show as if there's no flights. Click the boxes anyways and watch the deals that you get. It's a cool little hack that I found out, and it's one that I use pretty frequently to get amazing deals. And a lot of you have always asked, hey, how do you travel so much during the year? Well, that's one of the reasons right there. That's a little trick I'm passing on to you. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about Ireland. So the whole plan of this trip was to go see St. Patrick's Day in Dublin, but the prices in Dublin to stay were very expensive. So what I did was I stayed in a hamlet called Sutton, and it was about 25 minutes from the airport, which wasn't bad at all. The taxi fee is going to be about $25 from Dublin Airport to Sutton, and then I jumped on the train, which they call the Dart out there. I got a day pass for like $6, and I was able to get downtown Dublin and walk around the city and check it out. Very, very affordable and economical way to see this place. And as I planned this trip, knowing I had 3 other countries ahead of me and London and Paris were going to be the most expensive, I started out budget-minded in the beginning, so then I'd have the extra cash to afford the nicer things as the trip went on. If you're going to rent a car, here's a couple things I can tell you. Before you go to Ireland, you're going to have to get your insurance ahead of time. They will not use your American insurance because the Irish Republic, all the roads are on the drive opposite sides, and the steering wheels are on the opposite sides of the cars, and they have a lot of accidents. So you are going to have to get some sort of supplemental insurance before you go over there. And we use the car to go to the Cliffs of Moher. I'm going to stop right there for a second and apologize because in my video, I keep calling it the Cliff of Moher. And the funny thing is as I'm saying that in that video, I know I'm screwing it up, but you got to also realize something. The day before is when I woke up and then I flew in, and then, you know, all the time shifting and everything. I was actually up for 25 hours when I shot that clip. And, you know, when I shoot these videos, they're improv. They're pretty true to what they are. I'm not going to shoot it 100 times. That's really what happens, right? So I'm in that tired state. I mispronounce it, whatever, get over it. My advice to you, though, if you're going to do something like that, just pay for like a tour company. If you pay for a tour company out of Dublin, it's like $70. They'll take you to the cliffs. They'll actually take you, I think it's the Atlantic Coastway or something like that they call it. And they'll bring you to like either Galway or Limerick. That'll be included. And you don't have to worry about driving. The reason I highly recommend this is because when you're out there on your way to the cliffs, you're going to go down some real country back roads. And God forbid you hit a wall or you get in an accident. You might not have cell phone service. You probably aren't going to know what road you're on. You have no idea how long you're going to wait for a tow truck. And then you're going to have to pay your deductibles on top of that. So really just leave the driving up to somebody, you know, who offers a service. You'll have a great time. I was fortunate. I had a blast driving. But again, there were some times where, you know, you're driving so close to the wall, you're actually hitting the branches that are, you know, on the street there. And it's kind of an unsettling feeling when you got a local coming down at you, you know, head on at like 40 miles an hour. And the only thing you can do is slam on your brakes and just hope you don't smash that wall. We had a couple hairy moments there. I know Sue was scared. I was all right with it, but I could totally understand how the accidents happen out there. So think about getting a tour bus. All right, so Ireland, Dublin itself. I'm going to give that number 3 on the list today, okay? So out of 4 places I went, it finishes in 3rd. And the reason is because as cool as Dublin is, Dublin's a city. Dublin is not going to stack up to a place like New York. It's not going to stack up to Chicago or Montreal, all right? It's a city. It's cool. But I found out in the bigger cities in the United States, there's a lot more to do. And it just doesn't stack up to the experiences I've had. It's a very nice place. But I think if you're going to do Ireland, you probably have to go a little bit further south, or maybe even go up north, maybe go see Belfast or something like that. You know, do a little bit more exploring. This trip was, you know, one of those run and gun trips where we're here and then tomorrow we're there. So it's going to finish number 3, and now we're going to talk about Edinburgh, Scotland. All right, so here we go, Edinburgh, Scotland. We left Dublin to fly over to Scotland on Ryanair. It's a Boeing 737. It seems like most of their fleet are. It's a great plane. It's the same thing as Southwest uses. It's set up the same way. And the flight was about 45 minutes to an hour. When we got there, there was nobody to check us in at customs. We literally just got off the plane and walked right into the country. And then as you exit the airport, I already pre-planned meticulously the travels, right? So I knew where I was staying was going to be close to the train station. So I simply just jumped on the tram from the airport and I paid something like maybe $10. And it brought me right down to St. Andrew Square, where then I had a 5-minute walk to my Airbnb. Andrew Square is pretty much the center of town, and that's where you're going to find all the bars and the clubs and things like that. The one thing I'll say about Edinburgh, it's very touristy. We went down to Victoria Street. It's very, very cool. It's beautiful. It's got a lot of medieval buildings and stuff like that, as you saw in the video. But the tourist, you know, feel, it just kind of killed it for me. If you're going to go to Scotland, I would suggest maybe getting on the outskirts and taking in the landscape. You know, maybe go to a smaller town or something like that. Because if you're going to go where I went, just, you know, be aware it's very touristy. So with that being said, we were only there for a day. We then went to the Waverley Station where we took our train. It was a Lumafix train over to London King Cross. So before we talk about London, I'm just going to let you know right now, without question, Edinburgh is going to finish number 4 out of 4 as my least favorite place to visit. All right, so then we jump on the Lumafix train and we end up leaving the Waverley Station and on our way to King's Cross, London. Everything was smooth. We went to the train station, got on, no problem. And then about 2 hours into our trip, we started getting the conductor over the radio there telling us that there was going to be delays and this, that, the other thing. Long story short, we were 2 hours late. The good thing about this is that the company that runs the Lumafix train, they're supposed to be issuing us a refund. I don't know if they will or not, but if the train is, you know, so late or whatever, they'll give you a percentage of your money back. In our case, because it was 2 hours late, we're supposed to get a full refund, which, that's $45 a person. That's what we paid. So that'll be nice to get that. So we ended up staying in King's Cross, London. I wouldn't stay there again. It was very much like a rundown area of like New York City. I walk out in the morning, I got people literally outside my building selling fruits, they're selling shirts and shoes, and then you look to your left, there's a KFC, you look to your right, you got graffiti. I felt safe in the area, but you tell at one point, this place is definitely run down. And the other thing is too, is it's a little bit of a ways. So if you're not gonna take, the subway, which they call the tube there, it's quite the walk, which I prefer walking because I like the exercise. So it took me an hour to get to Buckingham Palace because it was over 3 miles away. And once I got there, it was cool though. I saw the changing of the guards, Big Ben was there. And then I just kind of worked my way down the Thames River, and I ended up walking all the way down to the London Tower Bridge, where I also saw the London Tower. I did go through the Westminster City area, which is where, if you watch the video, you see me have that fish fry. That place was amazing. I have a screenshot in there of the name of the place. So if you're gonna go to London, I would definitely check that out. The place was awesome and very affordable. And I ended up catching up with Suzanne, who she ended up surprising me with that camera as I'm crossing the street, pretty much beat the shit. She ended up getting down there because she took the subway. We ended up taking it on the way back. And then the next morning, we wanted to go down to Abbey Square, which is where the Beatles shot their album cover. And we were able to do that pretty easy. We did have to switch 2 trains to get there, but again, that's in a very ritzy place. It was beautiful there. If I could recommend you staying anywhere, I would definitely try and stay in that area. I don't know if it's affordable or not. I mean, that place was gorgeous. But maybe look into it if you're gonna go to London. But I would probably stay out of the King's Cross area. So with that said, I would put London on this list as my second favorite spot. The place is gorgeous. It seemed very clean. Everyone was friendly there. I had a blast, and the buildings and stuff are unbelievable. I mean, you just see Big Ben, and it's just like, it's crazy. I mean, that place is gorgeous. So, that's going to come in number 2. And now we're going to talk about how we went over to the St. Pancras station and how we got to Gare du Nord in Paris. All right, so here we are. We're at the St. Pancras station in London, and we're on our way to Paris. I'm going to let you know right now, it's a full TSA check-in, customs check, everything. So you're going to kick your shoes off. You're going to go through all the security measures. You're going to have to present your passport. So definitely buy yourself some time before you get there. I was running around looking for a telephone booth so I could get my picture taken. So I was up against the clock. I was actually sweating pretty hard going through customs because I was watching everyone board my train, and I still didn't even get cleared to get on it yet. So don't do what I did. Buy yourself a little time. Show up an hour early. All right, so we take the Euro train over to Gare du Nord. We ended up spending $168 on a ticket because we wanted to go prime time, which was the 12:30 train. It was their fastest train and most convenient. What I will tell you, if you're going to book this train, book it 3 months or more in advance. We could have saved $100 by doing this. We ended up waiting, and it cost us. That $100 could have bought us an extra meal. Who knows? So anyways, we get into the Gare du Nord. We end up staying in a place called Montmartre. This little area is amazing. They have a village at the top of a hill that overlooks the entire city of Paris. And when you're up there, there's tons of artists, there's restaurants. I had one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life up there, all right? So this place is phenomenal. You gotta go and see it. With that being said, the other things that you gotta do in Paris, you gotta go see the Eiffel Tower. It's awesome. The whole experience is awesome, right? So we ended up titling this video, it was called No Sleep Till Paris, right? The whole entire trip was about getting to Paris, planning and executing, right? So we got there, we saw it. Place is amazing, and that's why it's number 1 on my list. I can't wait to go back to Paris. The place is just awesome. And, a lot of people always said before I went there, oh, the French are rude. They're going to hate you because you're Americans. That couldn't have been farther from the truth. I had tons of people actually come up and talk to me, whether I was eating food or I was just in the street, just doing what I'm doing. Everybody was really nice to me. I didn't have any issues at all. I think the last thing I'd say before I shut this video down is if you're going to stay in that area, the Uber that we took to Paris de Gaulle to fly home was $45. And it was like a half-hour ride. We ended up doing that because Paris was protesting. They were doing a metro transit strike the day that we were leaving. So we actually pre-planned our Uber, which I don't know if it's something Uber does everywhere, but in Paris, you can schedule your Uber 3 months out. So we just did it the day before. We made sure we had a ride that we could count on, and we were able to wrap this trip up. So Paris is going to finish as my number 1 destination, solely because the fact is that I want to go back there. London's awesome. I would go back to London too. But if somebody's going to ask me where I would go in Europe, my number one destination right now is Paris. It's just an awesome place. There's tons to do. There's tons to see. The people were friendly for me. And the food was just amazing. So that's pretty much the end of this video. I'm going to throw a couple outtakes on there. There's some stuff probably when I was a little loopy. You know, probably looks like I was eating paint chips or something, but whatever. I was on zero sleep this entire trip. And I wouldn't change it for the world. So a big shout out to Sue. Thanks for going. And, you know, I hope you had a blast, and hopefully somebody who watches this video, you know, takes something away from it. And if you like it, subscribe, like it, you know, that's all you can do. And if you don't, you know what I always say, I really don't give a shit. Later.
Okay, no sleep till Paris is a wrap. That's 4 countries, 7 days, roughly 10,000 miles. Definitely no sleep. France, we will be going back for sure. Talk about another trip coming up. Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Germany. We'll see how that goes, and catch you guys on the next trip.
All right, we're in Catherine, I don't know. It's a restaurant.
Breaking news! We have a development. Sue thinks she found something down here. I don't know how it's gonna get us in.
Our door broke.
There's 2 toilets. We can go together.